it's really frustrating when, you buy this land, you own it free and clear, but it's just like, do you really? You can't even park your camper on it without violating something. Well, welcome back, guys. Got a little bit of news to share. All right, here we are, except our camper isn't here anymore. So, unfortunately, we kinda got kicked off our property. So a week ago or so, we had a few questions to ask the town about building permits. Basically, our main goal was to build a barn first until the town told us that we can't build a barn first. Well, they said we could build a barn first, but we have to pull house permits at the same time in order to do so. So we just had a couple questions about that. And basically, she read us the code that said we are not allowed to be living in our camper on our property, and that the camper is not allowed to be on our front yard for more than 7 days or something. So she basically notified us that we were violating the code and, didn't really force us to move or do any of that. But seeing as how we're going to be applying for building permits here rather quickly, we thought it would be a good idea to at least get it moved so that we're not violating that and not causing any issues in getting those. So as you can see, like I said, we bought land from my parents in front of their house. So where I just drove the golf cart from, that's their property. So luckily, we're still really close. It's just unfortunately not on our property where we just spent, $4,000 to get electric and more than that to get a well and get water. But that's all right. At least it's all here when we decide to build. Our plan to live on the RV here while all this was happening kind of took a dump. We probably could park it down in here, then it's hidden from the road, but it's just getting it down there. That is a 43-foot fifth wheel, and when we're loaded down with everything in it, it's probably pushing 20,000 pounds, and there's no way it's going down right there. That driveway's a little more gradual, but we're coming up on the wet season, and if I needed to get that thing out of there, that might be an issue. So that kind of was an option. That was what we were going to try to do. And then my dad just said, listen, we got a 30 amp hookup up there. Park it up there for now. Obviously they got water, so we're hooked up to water. And it's not that far away. So I'm at kind of the middle of our property. And as you can see, the truck and the camper's right there. So not a huge deal. It's really frustrating when, you buy this land, you own it free and clear, but it's just like, do you really? You can't even park your camper on it without violating something. It's just that part of it's just kind of frustrating. So, I understand it. You don't want a bunch of people just living in their RVs on the property. I personally could care less, but if people have their land, let them do what they want. And I understand if you're in like a city limit or like, you know, really heavily populated area, but we're out here in the rural country, you know, and it just never ever used to be like that. You used to just do whatever you wanted around here, and you know, no one said anything. Now, oh, that was cool. That was a bald eagle. It's a juvenile bald eagle. That's cool. But yeah, like I said, you used to just be able to do what you wanted. No one complained about anything. Everyone kept to themselves, but not anymore, you know. Like she said it would take one person to complain about it, and then she would have to do her job and start enforcing rules and all that. So it's, you know, it's not a big deal. We went to school with the code enforcer, so we know her. You know, she wasn't like nasty about it or anything, but it's just kind of the whole thing, you know. Even she says it's stupid, but it's like, you got to do what you got to do, and it's her job to do that. So anyway, that's just kind of an update I wanted to fill you in on. As far as building goes, we did decide on kind of our floor plan, so we're working with the architect to get the approved house plans, and then we can start doing that stuff. So moving forward, I'm still waiting on the site plan, which we've got to get the site plan and then fill out a site plan application for the town until they approve that. And she said you can basically count on a month for that, and that's before we can go for any building plans. As far as the building plans go, it's going to be like a 32 by 32 house right here, just a 2-story. It's going to be like a barn dominium style, so it's going to be a slab with a heated floor, and you know, 2 bedrooms and a bathroom upstairs, and living area, kitchen, and our bedroom downstairs. So just a nice small modern barn-do style house, which will be really nice, and this will be about right here, so we'll be able to kind of have that view, which is kind of what we wanted. But yeah, that's it for that. Once we get the house plans approved and all that, I'll be able to share more and hopefully really start breaking ground here soon. But once that house plan's approved and all that, then we can move on to getting the barn done. So obviously there's a little bit of site work that needs to be done. This is kind of going to be the far edge of the barn, and it'll go 32 feet that way. That's 48, and we'll go 32 foot this way. It'll, you know, peak this way. 2 overhead doors over here, man door on that side. So that'll be a nice 32 by 48 workshop, but I wanted to kind of cheat it over here a little bit, because I want to keep this kind of a driveway to go down into the pit and stuff, and have a kind of a wraparound driveway. But yes, barn there, kind of the driveway, you know, will come right up between the barn and the house up on that hill. Septic obviously back there, like we went over a few videos ago. Well, and that is our pedestal for the electric. Where we had the camper parked, obviously the camper isn't parked there anymore, but at least we'll always have electric down there. And then once we get the buildings going, electric from that pedestal, so we don't need to wait on National Grid once we're ready to roll. It's just a matter of us running electric from that pedestal up to, you know, the barn if that's first, or the house right there. So that's kind of the plan moving forward. We still got our RV membership, and once it starts getting, you know, cold, even last night we got down into the mid 40s, and those fifth wheels are not insulated too well, and you go through a lot of propane when you're running that furnace. So in our membership, we can stay at campgrounds for free. We're already paying monthly for it, so it's like we might be heading south and then maybe break ground early next spring, but we'll just have to see how all that plays out when the site plan gets here, and when we get that all approved, Then we can move on to the building permits, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Anyway, that's just an update. I was gonna burn up these big bonfire piles here, but it's pretty windy today and I don't really think that'd be a great idea. But we have gotten some rain, so it's not as dry as it's been. So I'll probably torch them maybe tomorrow if it's not so windy. Anyway, like I said, just an update I wanted to fill you in on. As always, stay tuned, and I'll catch you in the next video. Jesus, started walking all the way back and I completely forgot I drove the golf cart down here.